RG had barely taken a sip of water and instantly sensed the deadly trap lurking in that cup. The assassin, disguised as a flight attendant, saw her scheme exposed, immediately yanked out a prepped dagger and hacked straight at the man's face like a rabid butcher. RG barely twisted aside, scraping past Death's stinking breath. The killer then pulled out 3 throwing darts. Luckily, RG used a tray to block them all like some desperate Last Supper. RG charged forward, wanting to brawl up close. But the killer pulled another surprise move, and the unlucky son got hurt yet again, proving fate just loves piling on. At the same time, RG closed the distance, smashing a tray right at the killer's face, but it got snatched barehanded and turned into a weapon against him. RG was beaten back, one pitiful stagger at a time. Cornered, RG finally lashed back, throwing a punch right at that damned face. But who knew? This one punch fully enraged the assassin, whose counterattack now hit even deeper, sharper, deadlier. A few vicious moves, and RG was slammed to the ground like a rag doll. At this life-or-death moment, RG's daughter Sophie appeared in a glide suit, dropping down from the heavens like some savage angel of death, swiftly flying to the plane's exterior. Through the window, she saw them still locked in their savage brawl, tearing at each other like rabid dogs. In that frantic cabin moment, RG grabbed his son's trophy and smashed it at the assassin, but missed, and the rebound whacked him right in the face, while he himself couldn't even crawl into the cabin. Helpless, Sophie had no choice but to slap a timed bomb on the cabin. In a heartbeat, the cabin airflow sucked RG and his son straight out into the roaring sky. As they plummeted like trash from the heavens, seconds from splattering into pulp, Sophie swooped to her brother first, strapped him tight with a belt like she was hog-tying prey. Brother barely saved. Seeing Dad still flailing, she dropped like a falling blade right to RG's side, lashed him up the same way, completing this grim rescue. But when the mission ended, Sophie jolted awake from her dream. Turns out it was all just a sick, adrenaline-drenched spy dream. Ever since she was a kid, Sophie's been nursing a twisted spy obsession, always fantasizing about becoming a cold-blooded operative like her dad. So from small to now, under Daddy RG's iron-fisted training, she honed herself day after day, hoping one day to stand atop the food chain as an apex spy. But Daddy RG, the so-called super agent, had long been fed up with all the slaughter and blood. All he wanted now was to rot away as a quiet office worm in the intel agency, far away from any gunpowder stench. Because of this, the director ordered him to become the babysitter for the agency's kids' choir group, leading them to Europe for some damn singing competition. Coincidentally, his own son and daughter were also in that choir. So for RG, this was the perfect excuse. He could do his half-assed mission, and at the same time keep a watchful vulture eye on his kids' first overseas trip, keeping them out of body bags. When the choir group landed in an Italian hotel, Sophie, thirsting to explore this unfamiliar jungle, quickly realized Daddy's suffocating control was always lurking over her like a shadow, strictly forbade her from sneaking out with classmates. But Sophie, trained in the dark arts since diapers, soon spotted the pinhole camera in Daddy's room and found the tracking device hidden in her sneakers. After ripping it out, Sophie dragged her buddy Colin, slipping into Big Brother Ryan's room next door. Never did she think this move would trigger the door's infrared alarm. Just as Sophie led the group out the window, thinking she'd finally tasted freedom's filthy sweetness, she turned a corner, only to find Daddy standing there like a ghost she couldn't shake. But Daddy, being reasonable, allowed them half an hour to roam and demanded they crawl back to the hotel in exactly 30 minutes. While they were out wandering, the brother and sister were snapping photos, when suddenly Sophie saw through the lens classmate Colin getting dragged by 2 burly thugs and shoved into a car. Sophie instantly ran forward to snap the car's plate, then hopped on a nearby bicycle, launching the chase. Sophie cut through an alley, getting ahead of the fleeing car, trying to block them. Who knew the other side wasn't scared at all, instead slammed the gas, roaring straight at her. Luckily, Sophie's feral instincts kicked in. She used the lighthouse wall to vault up mid-air, barely dodging the car's lethal charge. Agi, sensing shit had gone south, rushed over to help, but clumsily stepped on yet another street vendor's plaster statues, crushing them like cheap bones. At this moment, Sophie, like a ghost among statues, pedaled faster. Suddenly, a car blocked her at an intersection ahead. About to smash head-on, she twisted her body in time, slid sideways, slicing under the car's belly to escape. Agi also arrived at the scene. Sophie quickly told Daddy that classmate Colin had been taken. Colin's father? None other than the intel chief. Lucky for them, Sophie's phone had captured the kidnapper's face. RG recognized him at a glance. It was Billy. RG told Sophie Billy was once his comrade, but later Billy betrayed the CIA, set up a trap, wiping out the entire intel team in one mission. Only Agi crawled out alive. Soon, the intel chief Jin received the kidnapper's call, demanding he hand over the missile launch codes, bring them to Rome for the deal, or his son's corpse would be the only souvenir. With no other choice, Chief Jin headed to Rome to meet Agi, bringing his assistant, who was also his wife, Annie Chief Jin. Since they came secretly to Rome, they carried no weapons. So they sneaked to MI6's safe house in Rome, preparing to break in to steal gear. Then they crawled up pipes to the second floor of the safe house. Inside, they saw thousands of birds locked in cages. But they didn't give a damn, and went straight to rummaging for weapons. Just as they got the gear and were ready to leave, one wrong move triggered a switch. The bird cages instantly burst open, and the birds shot out like candy bullets, ruthlessly smashing into them. We see these things, but the nimble Chief Jin, when attacked by the birds, instantly slipped through the vent gap, escaping outside, whereas the hulking Agi, due to his massive size, couldn't squeeze through like Chief Jin, forced to endure the birds' brutal onslaught, like meat on a hook getting pecked. Luckily, he used the spinning fan blades, letting the blades' savage rotation slice off all the birds stuck on him. Just as the birds were about to launch a second wave, Chief Jin jammed the fan blades with his briefcase, finally giving Aji a narrow chance to crawl through the gap in the fan. As soon as they got into the car, a sky-blackening swarm of birds swooped down for a frenzied assault. Chief Jin floored the gas, barely escaping death's beak. Aji and Chief Jin's car hadn't even gotten a chance to open the doors when a nearby truck slammed into them head-on. Immediately after, a bunch of armed thugs stormed out of the truck, spraying their car with a storm of bullets like rabid hounds. In this lopsided firepower slaughter, the two had no choice but to surrender like gutted dogs. Luckily, Sophie and Annie tracked them through the tracker and arrived just in time. When the two woke from unconsciousness, they realized in horror they were now suspended like dead pigs in an abandoned warehouse. At this moment, the thug leader Billy and Lancy swaggered up, forcing Chief Jin to spit out the missile launch codes. Chief Jin refused to squeal even if it meant death. So he got dragged off by the thugs, leaving Aji alone, as Lancy stabbed Aji with a monstrous nerve toxin before leaving. This toxin, once inside the body, makes the heart slowly choke itself to death. After Lancy left the warehouse, Aji hung there alone, like meat waiting for the flies. Unwilling to die, Aji locked his legs on a stone pillar, summoning every shred of brute force to break free from the hook. But as he hit the ground, the toxin gnawed at him so badly he couldn't even stand. Lucky for him, daughter Sophie arrived just in time with Annie's help and stabbed him with a heart-stimulating shot, dragging him back from death's icy claws. Meanwhile, the kidnapped Colin seized a moment when the guards were sloppy, untied his ropes and bolted like a desperate rat. He fled out the back door, finding a vast sunflower field waiting. Colin dove in fast, but Billy also barged into the field, hunting like a wolf. Colin crawled slowly through the sunflower jungle, but in the end, Billy sniffed him out anyway. Just as Billy was about to fire, Aji lunged in, body slammed Billy into the mud. The two stood up, launching into a savage close-quarters brawl. Because Aji still had that toxin rotting his veins, his reactions turned sluggish and weak, and after several brutal rounds, Aji gradually fell into disadvantage, when suddenly, a gunshot tore through the air. Annie fired at Billy, but her aim was trash, and she accidentally shot Aji instead. Billy seized the chaos, jumped on a motorbike, and vanished into the night like a cowardly hyena. On the other side, Chief Jin, under Lancy's vicious threat, was dragged into a church. Chief Jin smashed open the church wall and found inside a suitcase storing the nuclear launch codes. Seeing the nuke box in hand, Lancy grinned like a demon drunk on blood, immediately started a live broadcast threatening the world's richest few leaders, telling them to wire him $50 billion within half an hour, or he'd blow the entire planet to ash. After the threat, Lancy slammed the start button and the nuke countdown began ticking down like a devil's heartbeat. Meanwhile, Aji and Annie snuck into the church, planning to rescue Chief Jin. But before they could move, they were spotted by Lancy's armed dogs and forced at gunpoint in front of Lancy. Aji got smashed to the ground by Billy. But Aji, crawling like a rabid hound, picked up a pencil off the floor, threw it like a dagger at Billy's face. Billy flinched instinctively, and Aji took the bait. In a chaotic hellstorm, Lancy and Billy seized the chance to slip away. At this point, the nuke suitcase had already started. A nuclear blast would rip the sky apart in half an hour. The only way to stop this doomsday symphony was to snatch the remote back from Billy's filthy claws. Right now, Billy was driving like a rabid dog on the highway, fleeing at full throttle. Aji, riding his roaring motorcycle, hunted him down without mercy. As he closed in, Aji launched himself off the motorcycle like a predator pouncing, clutching the speeding car, then clawing his way up to the roof like a grim reaper riding death's chariot. Billy saw a forklift parked on the roadside ahead, immediately twisted the wheel and rammed straight toward it. Luckily, Aji reacted like a cornered beast, sliding down from the car roof to a lower spot, barely dodging the forklift's savage bite. Right after, Aji jumped into the car, just drew his pistol, but Billy slammed the brakes like a lunatic, making Aji lose balance and drop the damn gun. Aji then wrapped Billy up tight with a seatbelt like binding prey, but at that moment, a car came charging from the opposite lane. Billy seized the chance and rammed into it head-on. The car spun out of control, and Aji got flung out of the car like a ragdoll in a slaughterhouse. Billy immediately pulled out a pistol, ready to finish off Aji. At this critical moment, Sophie threw a pen like a venomous dart, striking right into the back of Billy's filthy hand. At this moment, Aji also grabbed the enemy's dropped blade off the ground, lunged forward like a starving wolf, and viciously stabbed Billy. Because of Billy's reckless crash, the car parked on the stairs started sliding straight into the ocean. Billy saw this and, without a second of hesitation, jumped into the sea like a rabid dog, diving down to search for the remote control. Because Aji's hulking body was stuck in the gap of the car, his fingers couldn't even graze the remote control. Right at that moment, a hand suddenly reached in from behind and snatched up the remote. Turned out it was Sophie. Relying on her agile snake-like body, she slipped into the car, successfully grabbed the remote control, ending this nuclear hell threat, and just like that, saved the damned world.